So this video is for anyone who may be feeling lost in life, anyone who is maybe younger than 17, or maybe just turned 18, maybe even older, it doesn't really matter. But what I found out about life and the meaning of life as a 17-year-old is that life is utterly and completely meaningless, but also surprisingly meaningful in a lot of aspects. And I'm going to get into why exactly. Because, for one, it's meaningless in the point of if you just scale everything outwards and you just scale everything to a grander scheme, you tend to realize that everything is just pointless. Like, why are you even doing this? And an example of that would probably be just questioning everything. As I've gained knowledge, as I've grown up, I've always been a curious kid. I've always asked questions: why this works? Why this? Why that? Why is the world the way it is? Because all you can really do is ask questions of a world that's already been established. If you were only born in it, you didn't create the world. You didn't create the world. So the more you ask questions, the more almost mundane everything seems. Uh, and just like the ancient philosopher Socrates said, he would often like challenge citizens on to test their morality and values. And the reason why he would do that is because the more you question why someone does something, the more you can really, I guess, understand why they do that thing. And you can almost uncover a lot about that person because then you can understand, are they doing this because they truly care about it, or are they just kind of mindlessly going on with life, mindlessly obeying and going with the status quo. Um, And as I've grown up, as I've asked more questions, as I looked at a grander scheme of things, I'm like, everything almost doesn't matter. And this almost comes at a sense of dissociation from certain events, or looking at it and be like, why is everybody doing this? It almost seems like it doesn't even matter. Or being told as a kid that things are the way they are just because they are. And you're like, why? Doesn't make any sense. Or if you just consider that we're floating on a giant rock, spinning hundreds of miles per hour through a vacuum of space that is so vast that you can't comprehend, or how finite your life is and that you will most likely be forgotten within a couple of generations after you die, then you almost realize how meaningless life is. But then you need to look at it from a closer view and in more minute detail, and then you realize that life is extremely precious. That even the smallest form of life, like a little flower blooming in spring, can be extremely beautiful. Or like how family is always there for you. I'm not assuming that everyone's family is good to them, but I'd say in my personal experience, my family's been good to me, and I think that's beautiful. Um, but then you can make a counter argument, for example, in the sense of you squash a fly or step on an ant because you find its life insignificant. And then you almost beg the question, why is a little ant's life less significant to yours? Is it because they're far smaller than you are? Or is it because they don't possess the same intelligence and ability to comprehend their surroundings? I mean, they still grew up, they were still born, they still do tasks and they die. It's the same thing as humans. We grow up, we do tasks, and we die. What makes us any different from the ants, right? And it's almost like you need to consider that to truly understand why life matters. The reason why life is significant is because it's fleeting. It's not forever. What I'm trying to say. You're not going to live forever, right? And with that considered, you have a finite amount of time on this planet. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to do what everyone tells you to do, or are you going to do what you want to do? Because what I've realized now is that if you just do what everyone tells you you're supposed to do, have you ever truly lived? And that's why, like, sometimes when I look at society, or for example when I go to school, like, I love to learn, mind you. I read a lot of books. I read about a lot of philosophers. I love consuming knowledge. And so when I go to school, although sometimes we learn about topics that I find interesting, I almost find it mundane or completely dismissible when we're learning about certain topics that I already know about, or topics that can easily be inferred with the simplest Google search, right? Like, oh, obviously that's the case, right? So it almost feels like there's no point on indulging in that knowledge. School is supposed to be an institution for academia, correct? But it almost became less about academia and absorbing knowledge and more about grades, like a number on a sheet and memorization. I believe intelligence goes beyond just that. You know, you're given standardized tests, you're given 40 minutes to complete it. And if you don't, well, you're not you're not rewarded. You know, it almost school almost pretty much school in a way it almost deteriorates and denounces learning because it only rewards people who are able to succeed within the systems that they set up to pretty much turn you into a future worker. And that's not what I want. I just want to learn. I want to truly understand the information that I'm being reviewed. I don't want to just review information just for the critical ability to solve a test and then completely disregard the information later. You know, like I truly want to absorb. So in that sense, it feels mundane. It feels worthless. But if you instead of obeying by what society tells you you should do, you should most likely go for what feels right for you. That is how you can truly find meaning in this world. Is if you are able to find a passion and stick to it. There is no clear-cut way to success in this world because everyone can succeed in their own way. There is no recipe to it. I guess there's a guide, and that's work hard, stay consistent, so on. But when it comes to these kind of minute things, you almost get lost in what you feel like you should be doing instead of just starting and hoping for the best. And that's really what it should be. It sounds extremely ambiguous. It sounds extremely dark and uncertain. But that's the thing about life, and that's the beauty of it, is that it's completely uncertain. And so this video is for anyone who's younger, for anyone who's lost in life, anyone who's old. Um, it's just out there to tell you that life, even if it feels lost, there is meaning in it. Even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels meaningless. Because if you are able to fine tune something and just look deeper into it, you are able to find meaning. You matter in any sense. And even if this video, nobody sees it, maybe one person sees it, maybe it helps somebody out there. If it helps someone, then it did its job. I'm not trying to do anything here, but just spread like words and knowledge. But you mustn't fear venturing in the unknown because often in the unknown is where you can find yourself. When you're able to venture into darkness and you're relying on nothing but who you are and your true instincts often lead you to the right path. That's the voice you should follow. You shouldn't follow exterior voices telling you what you can and can't do because they're not your life. They don't tell you, they can suggest what you want, what you should do in life, but the choices are in your hands. And I'm a believer in God. I believe in God. And I believe God puts certain tools in our life to help us get ahead in life or to put us on the right path. But eventually, the choice is ours. We can choose to take up those tools or we can completely abandon them, cast them aside. So, with that being said, life is utterly pointless and meaningless because 99.99% of us, maybe even more, are going to be forgotten within 3 generations of our death, maybe even 4 generations. But you can still make it meaningful with how you spend the rest of it. Thank you for your time. See you on the next video.